Freshwater species and their ecosystems are facing numerous threats: habitat destruction, pollution, climate change, and invasive species. Therefore, understanding their ecology and biology is crucial for proposing and implementing effective conservation and management measures. Now, the question that arises is, do we have sufficient information to support conservation measures? To answer this, we used FishBase to uncover knowledge gaps in the ecology and biology of fish species in inland European waters. Initially, we extracted a list of all species recorded in Europe inland waters FAO area, which you can see here in this light green color. After extraction, we cleaned and processed the data to eliminate species distributed outside the European boundaries. Actually, we excluded species distributed in this area and proceeded with species that can be found here, which is western of the Ural Mountains and Ural River, the Caspian Sea, the Greater Caucasus, and the Black Sea, and last, the waterway of the Bosporus Strait. Additionally, we excluded duplicates and questionable records to ensure both accuracy and relevance. We gathered information. Next, we verified the status of each species based on the information provided in the species in FishBase here, and especially under this field entitled distribution, whether its species is native, endemic, or introduced. We collected data on species' preferred habitats and migratory behavior. We gathered data on maximum reported length, maximum reported weight, and maximum reported age, which are referring to the longest, the heaviest, and the oldest specimens caught, and on length at maturity, which indicates the length that the species are becoming sexually mature for the first time. We also documented records on weight-length relationships, length-length relationships, on spawning, and on fecundity. Furthermore, we collected records on growth, describing changes over time of the body mass, on natural mortality, and on the dietary habits, including both diet composition and food items. In total, we gathered records for 636 species, representing 42 families. The family with most species was Leucicidae, represented by 180 species, followed by the Salmonidae family, which was represented by 127 species. 20 families were represented by 92 species, while 10 families were represented by only one species each. Almost 60% of the studied species were classified as endemic, 32% as native, and almost 80% as introduced. We found information on all species regarding their preference in salinity conditions and the position in the water column. All species, as expected, were classified as freshwater, with few being able to occur both in brackish and salt waters. And concerning their preferences in the water column, the majority of the species were characterized as benthopelagic. However, data on migratory behavior was missing for more than 76% of the studied species. Information on the maximum reported length was available for 96% of the studied species, while information on the maximum reported weight and maximum reported age were available for the 23% of the studied species and 35% of the studied species, respectively. No information was found for 153 species, about a quarter of the total number of studied species, on the remaining biological parameters that we studied. The highest number of records concerned the weight-length relationships, here, and the lowest number of records concerned the natural mortality. Spawning was the most studied parameters, as spawning data were available for 63% of the studied species, followed by the dietary habits, for which information was available for 47% of the studied species. Data for length at maturity, here, on fecundity, growth, and natural mortality were available for less than 27% of the studied species. The most studied species were economically significant species like Salmotruta, Cyprinus carpio, Esox lucius, Perca fluviatilis, and Mugil cephalus. More than 70% of the records concern 314 species listed in the least concern category based on the IUCN list. Fewer than 20% of the records concern 223 species listed in the threatened categories, which are extinct, critically endangered, endangered, vulnerable, and near threatened. This triggers concerns as conservation efforts often prioritize well-studied species, while species less studied are frequently neglected. To summarize, significant knowledge gaps exist, imposing implication for conservation and management. Data availability varies greatly among both parameters and species. The parameters with the highest data deficiency were natural mortality, growth, fecundity, and length at maturity. Most information was available for economically significant species, while less information was available for species in threatened categories. These points highlight the need for enhancing research efforts to fill these gaps, particularly for underrepresented species and parameters. One approach to overcome the knowledge gap is to focus on protecting entire ecosystems and habitats instead of specific species. This way, we indirectly protect the species within the ecosystems, including the less studied ones. The precautionary principle is crucial here also. This principle suggests that even without complete knowledge, we should take proactive measures to protect the environment, because it's always better to err on the side of caution, especially in complex and poorly understood ecosystems. Conservation measures should be adaptive, allowing for adjustments as new information becomes available. And finally, we should engage citizen science and local ecological knowledge to expand our knowledge base. Local communities often have a deeply understanding of their environments, which can be invaluable in protecting lesser-known species. Thank you for your attention and your time.